Deconstructing. 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 Deconstructing.
We're live.
Oh, are we live?
Awesome. Thanks for tuning in to Deconstructing the Daydream. I'm Daniel Cannon, your host. This is my good friend, buddy, helper in all things podcast related, collective related, show related. His name's Forrest. Give it up.
Recorded by a automated studio audience.
Yeah. We'll put some claps in.
Me. I do appreciate it. Yeah, there it is. Well, thank you for having me. I do appreciate it.
Thank you for everything, Forrest. You've really helped me find a good space for this, find a few good guests, and
well, I can guarantee we're going to be continuing that. We got a lot of the bookings coming up here, and more people to put on the podcast as little secrets, if you will.
Yeah, got some secret people who you'll be seeing soon. Awesome. So, Forrest.
Yes, sir.
I already know you well as fuck. The internet and the world is just getting to meet you.
Yeah.
Forrest Tate.
You've been one of my at least one of my oldest friends minimums in St. Pete's, and if I have to look back outside of my brother and my one other friend, you might damn near be my oldest friend. So much love you, buddy.
And Daydreamfarmers, the whole vision started as vending and as tie-dye.
Originally and truthfully, without throwing shade, it was I needed a bit of an outlet because whenever my ex and I were kind of, we were having our struggles, I just needed an outlet. And, being so inspired by my first festival, Halloween 2018, actually got to build the festival before we even went to a festival and before I knew what a music and arts festival even was. We got to build the installation. So we were out there building like the guy holding the tree and like the little spider that you can crawl inside. I was breaking, I wasn't one of the artists pinning things together necessarily, but we were out there, breaking apart the pallets and running around making sure that they had everything they needed and keeping the ground clean. So it wasn't as exciting as maybe it sounded, but it was still very much like I'm a part of this and I'm building it, and like you're there doing it for a few days and then all of a sudden, boom, 80,000 people show up and you're like, holy shit. And you just, the inspirations that can come from all those people and seeing their dreams and their daydreams that they're trying to farm. And like, it's a overload of just,
So you were inspired by your first festival. Yeah. You got to get some hands-on experience.
I got hands-on experience there. And then, going back a few years later, I'm looking at myself going, I need an outlet. How can I be, idle hands do the devil's work. How can I keep my hands busy in something wholesome? And like, what do I love to do? And what do I want to do in this world? And truly, I just looked up one day. I was like, I love tie-dye. My buddy's making tie-dye and I love all of his work. And it's just like so much fun. And then like a few, business thoughts behind it. Like how would I advertise what I'm trying to do? And kind of like, thinking different art forms that I've enjoyed doing and kind of finding the passion while also like trying to set a foundation for something bigger one day if it ever made it that way. And I kind of chose tie-dye, and it was an absolute blast to be able to just create all of these things and then wear my own art, because it's like I can't carry around my canvases. I'm wearing some of mine right now too. I got a little dressed up and put my tie-dye on, if you will. Try to make it a little fancy.
A little business,
and, trying to keep it business casual out here. But it was such a pleasure, sitting there for hours. And truthfully, it's like a meditation. When you're doing art, it's really a meditation because you're sitting there for hours, tying or painting or looking at a wall that you're getting ready to do and just mapping it out. Or maybe it's a digital art form that you're doing. Whatever the art form is, even yoga and physical, whatever that kind of art form is, it's truthfully a method of meditating. And realistically, it cleans the mind and allows you to have those moments of clarity while you're,
Yeah, I agree. Right now, doing this gives me a lot of clarity because normally my brain would be run amok, so to speak, and I have to like breathe and pull myself back into the present conversation rather than just letting my brain just like scurry away.
Yeah. It kind of keeps you in the present moment.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and practice cultivating that into other areas of my life.
Yeah.
Um,
Like doing the dishes or doing laundry and just being in those presents.
the dishes, that's always such a mark of mindfulness for me. I don't know why, but that's always when I think I'm like, I guess I really enjoy doing dishes. But every time I don't do them enough for how much I guess I enjoy them. But
Sure.
every time I do it, I'm like, this is really just a moment to just like, I guess my hands are wet. I can't be on my phone. I'm
Yeah,
just
that's probably a
focused
good
on a
point.
singular
Yeah.
task of washing something really well, and then just.
Well, you're gonna eat from it later. It's like making your bed, and like that's a self care act in itself, as well as it's a mindful act. I was washing the dishes the other day and found out how much again you enjoy doing it because you're in the present moment. You're cleaning your mind out. It's like just an outpour of self love because you want those dishes to be clean. You don't want them dirty to be eaten off nasty stuff.
Right, exactly, and to have the clean space and everything.
Yeah, and it just feels good afterwards to be like that minor accomplishment to say, I did something. My house looks nicer. My space is cleaner because like your room is a representation of how clean your mind is. At least that's how I view it.
Certainly, yeah. Whenever my room's getting cluttered, my brain's going right there with it.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't just vend tie dye though. I'd see you around at a bunch of shows. You'd have tie dyes. You'd have um, craft works, little glass pieces.
I kind of called it DIY anything. So if I saw it on Pinterest or I saw it somewhere or the epiphany of the idea came to me, it was like I was learning through doing tie-dye that there's nothing I can't do if I don't just put my mind to it, which is a funny real when you realize that, then you also have to start playing with the fact that how long do I want to spend on a shirt? Do I want to spend, 5 hours on a shirt, or do I want to spend 40 hours on a shirt? How gassed do I really want this shirt? And then there's a bit of like just an acceptance of it as well. It's a weird line to play when you realize that. But
Yeah.
I didn't actually just start in St. Pete. I started out in Plant City, was where I lived. And shout out to Mad Chiller World. They started so much for me. I actually walked in there one day after making a bunch of tie-dyes after work because it was my Kava Kratom bar that I would hang out at. They actually during COVID didn't shut down at all. They looked like a house and they threw little shows, and it was a hallway in a house that led to a door, and they just kept that locked. And they had spray painted neon geometric shapes and all like these lotus flowers and a bunch of stuff all over the walls, beanbags on all sides of the wall, and at the end was a DJ booth where they would just have tiny raves at this little Kava Kratom bar with board games and chess sets everywhere. There was a huge chess club in there. But I walked in one day with a duffel bag thrown over my shoulder and just was like, anybody want to see some of my art? Because everybody else was hanging up their stuff. And I was like, this is what I do. And somebody offered me like $20 for a shirt because I didn't know how to market. And at that moment, that's one of the best highs I've ever had. One of the best feelings I've ever had was that moment of, I created something and somebody was excited to have it and they wanted it. And then seeing them weeks later wearing that, it's like, because now they're using it as part of their self-expression.
Yeah.
And so I started there. I'll make it more of a, less of a reader. I'll make it a Reader's Digest, not a War and Peace.
No, take your time.
But they offered me later on to be one of their vendors at the next show, and I had never vended before, so I just said, all right, cool. And I asked them if they needed any other vendors because I knew this one other girl who was vending, and I was peeping at her Instagram because I really was respecting her ability as a marketer, and she was also a vendor, so it made sense for me to kind of like peep at it. And I actually used a lot of her Instagram, how she was structuring her Instagram to it kind of taught me. Shout out to girl with the whiz tattoo. So I asked her if she wanted to come vend, and she came, and it made it easy for me to kind of like look at how somebody else is doing it and kind of mimic how I should be doing it. So just vended there for a handful of times, and then started looking around for other places to vend because it was making decent money. So I think I paid rent one time on just selling tie-dye over a month. And then that was actually a funny thing first thing that happened, I realized if you start doing it for the money disappears. If you're doing it for the love of doing tie-dye, the money just seems to be there.
A little more naturally, yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. I mean, you should always try to focus on the art first and then figure out on the back end, once the art project's completed, how can I make some dollars off this, make it sustainable.
And like you said earlier, I was making other knickknacks. I just thought it would be hilarious to take all of the liquor bottles that were being thrown away at my job and start making them into bongs.
Yeah.
I had done that years ago, and I said, I know how to do that. So I started making bongs, and I sold a lot of bongs at Matt Schiller World.
Yeah, I have one at home, my little Coca-Cola bottle. Yeah, I love it.
Little bubblers. Those were some of my favorites. I actually made one for Jimi Hendrix's nephew, Reggie Hendrix.
Yeah, you told me about that. That's cool. Where did you meet him at? Dunedin Brewery?
No, I actually, when I was living in Plant City, some of the people who would come in knew him, and we were a half restaurant, half music venue, so they had small acts in the area, and really it was splitting them too thin because they were also having a baby. So unfortunately they don't exist anymore. But it was called The Industry down in St. Pete, or Plant City rather.
Plant City.
And they brought him in one day to perform even, and he got one of my bongs and also a tie-dye.
Nice.
Yeah. That's
cool. So then after doing the tie-dye thing, that opened a couple like kind of weirder avenues. You got to do that at, was it Cureleaf in town?
Yeah. Cureleaf actually hired me to do 3 shows now. One of them was going to be at their store location over here on Tyrone Boulevard. They wanted me to come in, and if somebody spent a certain amount of money, which is like, barely anything really, they got to walk over and take one of the Cureleaf shirts, and I would teach them right there how to do the tie-dye. They would go ahead and do it in one of my bins. I would, show them whatever they wanted, have a little tie-dye session with them, and then they got to take it home and have it rinsed out the next day, ready to go.
Nice.
It's a cute little thing. And then before that event even happened, I also get messaged to do Orange Grove down in out in Orlando. So before I'd even shown them what I was doing and what I had, they asked me to do that, and in one day I made just a little over 160 shirts.
Wow.
I've never made more shirts in my life, and I've never been so tired in one day.
Yeah, that's a lot of time.
Yeah, but that was a lot of fun to teach that many people how to do tie-dye, and it was my favorite part was having a line longer than any of the food vendors, and people coming to literally come ask, what are you guys doing? Because your line is stretching outside of your booth and into other people's booths and into like the street rather.
Yeah.
So
that's cool.
Yeah, I had to have at least 5 to 6 people helping me at all times because there was so much influx.
Yeah.
It's phenomenal.
And then you got to meet the Sun Squabby cats from tie-dyeing. Just running up to him, giving him a shirt. I was there for that. That was a fun moment.
I actually met him at Resonate, and they were the only reason that I went to my first festival 2018, because they were the first band that I had discovered that nobody had shown me, that they just came up on my Spotify randomly, and I was like, what the hell is this? Loved seeing them the other day. Actually got to hang out with him, and then after the show, he's like, hey, stick around. So just chit chat about, what he's got going on. He's got his own little side project, Lavender Sound, but with no vowels. Really a fun little side thing. And
he was a nice dude.
I love him. Thanks, Josh. And and I met him at Resonate, offered him a shirt because I didn't want to bug him as an artist. I was like, I'll leave you alone. You enjoy your festival, but if you want to wear any of my tie-dye, I'll make you a custom. And he remembered my name later that night and messaged me on Instagram, and I've given him at least 8 shirts now, and anytime he wants more, you got him. It's what's funny too, and this goes out to all artists, is don't, and I know Reagan had touched on it on her episode.
No, I think that was after when we were all talking in here.
Anyways,
yeah,
exactly. So this kind of goes out to all the artists. Don't devalue your art. Even with the podcast, even if you see something and you're like, oh, I don't, I don't feel like there's that's of quality, and I don't feel like it's what I want, or just like some of my least favorite shirts have been people's most favorite. So much so that, funny enough, and if Josh hears this, he'll get a giggle out of it. One of my least favorite shirts I ever made happens to be Sun Squabby's profile picture.
Right.
Whenever I pulled it out, I was just like, this is not what I was going for. I had a different thing in mind, and whenever I was sent him all the photos of the stuff that I kind of made, thinking of like designs for him, because I really enjoy being a stylist and like styling DJs or styling performers when they're on stage. I can get to that, but whenever I was showing him all the photos, the one that he liked the most just out of all of them was the one that I liked the least out of all the ones that I sent him. And then it's his profile picture. So it's kind of like a constant reminder to myself that even if something isn't created exactly the way you're looking to, it might mean the world to somebody else. Don't ever devalue what you're creating, and don't ever get discouraged, because you never know what can come of it. I had one girl cry over one of my pieces of art. I can tell that story, but
no, I agree a lot though with the whole idea that like art's subjective, and like what's beauty's in the eye of the beholder or whatever. Like obviously something that you might not like, I like, vice versa. But then also like even when these mistakes happen or these moments, when you're making art where it's like, fuck, that's not how I intended, but it's like that's still kind of how the universe intended, because that's what the fuck happened when I made it. I didn't quite get the opportunity to have my vision play out to a T, but I was there guiding along the way where I could, and then where the universe comes in with unexpected factors that painted its own stroke, so to say, on the art. So
you never know either where it's going to go. It might be setting the foundation for something that you have no idea about.
Yeah. You weren't a fan of the one you made me for my birthday, my Rasta Lion shirt?
I wasn't.
But I've made so many memories in that shirt, So when I look at it, it's not even just a funky looking lion. It's like, oh man, all the fun times I've had in that fucking shirt. Yeah.
Yeah.
And going into that opening up doors, like the tie-dyeing, opening unintended doors. It seems like that's one of the most unintended doors that's opened for you, as you are now stepping into a different role with Daydreamfarmers.
Yeah, Daydreamfarmers has kind of been rebranded. Years down the road, if somebody listens to this, it won't be visible. But if you go on Daydreamfarmers currently, there's still at least 250 photos, if I'm not mistaken, of tie-dye and a few of my other knick-knack arts. I've made clouds, I've made bongs, made paintings, a bunch of nonsense, some jewelry, just touching anything. But it kind of is taking a bit of a new direction. We're doing events now, because when I was a vendor, I had thoughts about, from the very start, how my dream always was to, throw events one day, ever since I went to my first festival, and I never saw how it was going to be possible. But I kind of just said, well, I love being an artist, and maybe that'll take me somewhere, and this is a nice outlet. So I started doing the art form instead, and eventually it led to it, kind of going off of what we just talked about a second ago, is like, creating that foundation. You never know where it's going to go, and it's kind of difficult to tell the story of Daydreamfarmers in some sense, because you have a linear timeline, but the thought processes and why I did this and that and the other are completely opposite directions sometimes to where we actually kind of ended up going. And sometimes people are like, that doesn't make any sense. I'm like, just trust me, because it's setting the foundation for something that sometimes I can't even see, but I have this, really deep in my gut feeling that it's like, just set it like this because it's being prepared for something. And
Yeah.
the universe takes control sometimes of those things and kind of does it for you. You never know. So,
Well,
if your dream doesn't ever land quite where it's at, it could be blooming better than where you thought.
yeah. And it's been interesting so far. I mean, the team of people around us, it's got a lot of, you've done a great job getting your vision started from, all right, let me get my foot in the door. Now you've done 2 successful events.
We had about 500 the first one, and it actually sold out. We ran out of wristbands, a brand new box of them, and then over 400 people in the last one.
Okay. And then everyone's had a fun time. I've dug around in the community and asked around, and everyone really enjoys a lot of the installations, a lot of the features. The first one had Frick Frack Blackjack there.
And we're in communication about having them at the next one.
Nice.
And a lot more, because I love Frick Frack, and it was kind of a gift to my brother. The first one coming around, he loves Frick Frack, and like, I love my brother. So, then I started running everything and was like, yo, you know what? Frick Frack's gonna land so hard. The people love Frick Frack. So it started out as like, I want to do this for my brother, and then just looking around, I was like, everybody's gonna want Frick Frack.
It was popular. It was a hit for sure.
Yeah.
And then obviously Halloween, the opportunity to dress up. Like, people wanted to get all dressed up to the T. I was Jesus. I saw all kinds of people out there.
I think I was dressed in my Daydreamfarmers outfit.
Yeah, Future Joy was their like little punk.
I was so excited to see them. I thought they were still out of town.
Yeah.
They rolled in and somebody's like, hey, can Future Joy get on the list? I was like, I didn't think they were in town. Duh, they can come in. I need to say hi.
Yeah, that was a fun show. And then your second one was amazing. I missed that one. Got a bit too drunk to make it, sadly.
I think it was the McDonald's. I wouldn't.
Yeah. It was something combined in my stomach to where I could not leave my house.
Fine. Well, also the relief of actually landing the first podcast, all that like pent up tension in your body finally went, and it probably crashed because like that was the first podcast with Racket. So it's
But I saw enough of the media that it was a fun show.
Yeah. Well,
you guys had a good time.
Yeah. Proud of you for the whole first podcast. That was a lot of fun. I can't wait to see where we started and where we land. And
yeah. These will keep being more fun as they drop. It's kind of building a whole universe of St. Pete kids who all are very similar minded. Going back to your farming your daydreams idea, it's just like pretty much everywhere I look is just kids who are really trying their hardest to do their creative works, work 2 jobs so that they can work a 3rd job on the side selling art for 6 hours, or writing, or making music, or trying comedy bits. But whatever the case, it's just like pure creativity. Pretty much any direction I look in town.
Yeah, we have.
Get you some water.
I kind of need it. We have probably one of the best art communities I've ever seen. I've been to almost every state in the country. I really heavily enjoyed traveling. And it was definitely one of the best places for an art scene as well as the music scene, and realistically any art form.
Yeah.
You can find any art form as far as I'm aware in St. Pete, and the only other place was Portland, Oregon that I saw that had just enough of a thriving one. I haven't been to Denver yet, but I'm sure that from what I heard.
I'm sure too, yeah, they're supreme in a lot of those aspects, but then also like oversaturated in these ways. St. Pete's got murals on every corner, but they're
literally every corner
still commissioning more murals every day. It's like not slowing down. It's
even in the back alleys, dude.
Mm-hmm.
Like you slip down one of the back alleys behind all the businesses, and all of those walls are even painted. And it's like, dude, these are where we're putting the dumpsters and we're throwing out our oil, and still everything's painted up and gussied up, and it's just like they've let the artists loose in this town, and it's really nice to see that as a thriving community. you can complain a little bit about how it's being taken out because of the influx of people coming in, and it's kind of moving. It's kind of pushing the starting artist out a little bit, which is one of the biggest dreams of Daydream Farmers. Is we want to try to help the starting artist epidemic, is what I'm calling it. So that's why we have the website right now, and we're working on different avenues I can talk about. But it's kind of like it's a minorly frustrating to see some of the people getting pushed out of St. Pete just a little bit whenever they're the ones making it. But I think that we're really doing a good job, at least, of promoting our artists, not just me, but all the other everybody else who's throwing shows, and like trying their hardest to promote the artists and get people seen and get people on stages. And I really think that we're moving into kind of an art renaissance, if you will, not just in St. Pete, but like possibly worldwide. That's just a thought of mine.
Yeah.
And also, I think that St. Pete, calling it now, I think that St. Pete's going to be the next Hollywood. I think that will be, the next bloom that happens.
Yeah. Hopefully in a more sustainable manner, because Hollywood's, gets this pretentious rap.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've never been, so I can't judge a book by its cover. But I do know what I've heard.
Can I judge your books you're writing by its cover?
Sure. Once I print a cover.
Once you print one, I'm gonna just judge it right there.
I'll get some heady art. Don't worry.
We're gonna get Chris Dyer to do it.
There you go.
And then in each page, you got another like small watermark of somebody else's art.
That's too
That
distracting.
would be kind of distracting. But
Text
really
is
fun.
the art there. But you can play with text being art in a lot of ways.
Typography, is that what they call it?
Topography? That's like curvy maps, topographic maps where they have like the mountains, I think. I might be too stoned on it. Calligraphy is like fancy writing.
Is it calligraphy? Well, I mean, like, because if I would like to, I'm having it done, kind of, and I want to finish it, but like creating Daydream Farmers' name and like writing it. So like you saw Rafiki and Racket, you see Drewish behind the camera. Just like
fonts.
they have their logos in like a cool little design. It's what is that word, anyways?
We'll find it off camera and then feel like idiots on camera.
Yeah, you'll just put it in a bubble right here. Okay.
This is the word for it.
This is the word we're looking for.
It's gonna be
Right here.
here.
Should we mime it?
Oh, this is fun, man.
I'm just kind of being an asshole and making you do extra editing work.
Oh, dude.
Here's an extra hour of your time.
It's fun. I'm gonna be more sober this weekend than last. Trying to edit a podcast through late night radio into Sun Squabby into Alex Perez was like,
Oh, you were set up for what did not set you up for full success.
No, we're gonna do better.
But hey, you know what? You learned very quickly.
Yeah.
And like you went from the first one to the second one, and it looked worlds better. And I can't wait to see where we go from here.
Yeah.
It was very inspiring to watch you like hit it so hard, and like seeing how serious you were, because I know we've talked about it, and then one day you look at me and you're like, I'm gonna do it.
We're gonna make this shit
happen.
happen.
We're gonna make it actually happen. And I was like, all right, let's see. And then like the next day you hit me up. I did this and this and this, and I was like, oh shit.
So now we're sitting
every
in
day
a room
seems like put up, and now we're
making
here.
it happen.
So,
Yeah.
Very proud of you. Buddy.
It's weird. Inspiration comes in spurts, but you gotta kind of ride that wave when you get it.
Do you wanna share with me like where you're like some inspiration, some background on it?
Yeah, I love language in general. I love studying languages, and I love speaking. In the 8th grade, I won the superlative most talkative, which at the time was kind of synonymous with most annoying. But I've realized now that it's given me an edge on the competition, so to speak, in sole output of words. I probably output like twice as many as my peers.
I don't know. You're pretty quiet.
Well, you talk a lot. I'm quieting so that your words get out. But yeah, so the interest in language, it's also what makes me like to write. But how they tie in together. And then honestly, just the scene in general is inspiring from the outward perspectives that inspire me. Like I walk around to any given bar and I know 10 of the cats in there playing music. The other 10 are doing some really trippy shit visually. They're all putting themselves through school or working day jobs or, you know what I mean? Uber eating to make their fucking way to whatever, Reagan was talking about it. And, you got the day job and then you go do all this for, and you know how it is. You've got to balance the time management, but also, like, I don't like to have idle hands either. Like, Lord knows what the fuck I'll get into if I'm not just, like, constantly honed in on a craft. So, this has been that craft. This takes up a ridiculous amount of time.
Hook after a while.
Yeah.
It's just like you hit it and then you can't stop. Your friends are like, hey, where have you been? We haven't seen you for 3 days. And you finally come out of like the coffee corner. It's like, you want to see what I've done? And it's just like a massive amount of inspiration and work's been done.
Yeah.
It's kind of, it is one of the favorite
That's how it's
highs, if
been.
you will.
A lot. So we've talked about your role in Daydream Farmers, but as a view of it as a collective with all of our homies who've helped us out, shout out Drew, who's helping with sound right now.
We
He's
really appreciate Drew. Go check out Just Drewish.
At Just Drewish.
At
Kid's
Just
got
Drew.
fire music too.
He's been on both of the lineups, and we're definitely looking at getting him on a few more of them, different shows down in Florida. So like, go check him out. We love Drew. Thanks, buddy.
And Megan's helped a lot.
Megan's definitely been a very big help going through this. Shout out to her. Shout out to Christina. Christina's pulled a shit ton of weight. I love her.
Christina's in charge of performing arts
and vending currently.
Okay.
We're working on, honing in and polishing up the structure of everything. So she's taking on a little more than I would like her to have to. I'd like to, eventually ease the load of everybody who's taking on so much right now, and ease my load too just a little bit.
Who else do we have besides
Christina? Her and I used to vend consistently together, and now she's the performance coordinator and vendor coordinator. And then we have Reagan, who we spoke with. She's the live painter coordinator.
She does great.
Yeah, you're doing the podcast side of things, and it's just.
What about your boy with your 360-degree filmography?
Oh, Logan! Shout out to Logan. Braindance Collective. That man has some of the best quality of work. Him and I have had such great conversations, and like the synchronicities between us is phenomenal. And I so appreciate him. He's our executive media producer. So love that, because we got a lot of I can't tell you about it now, but him and I got a lot of little things working up in the scene. And my brother, God bless him, helping run the numbers and doing the organization that I
desperately needed.
We desperately needed some help on the organization. I was trying my best and I just couldn't keep up with it. And
shout out Skinny.
Shout out to Skinny. I actually he might be helping out with some frick-frack stuff here soon.
Nice.
And his photography is amazing. Also Faye, who came out and really helped rescue the first show, because we were out at Halloween and my phone, there was no service this last Halloween. My bank accounts got frozen while I was there, and I'm sitting there just losing my mind every morning. Like, I can't get a hold of anybody and do it. And between him and Christina and everybody else that I can't go down the whole list or I'll be here a while, made that event entirely possible. And I walked onto the grounds later that night because I finally got home after our car broke down on the side of the road and we left late. Finally get onto the grounds at 10:30 at night the day before, and they had taken what my dream was and just brought it up just a little bit extra. So even blew my expectations for the first show. So huge shout out and thank you to everybody who's been plugging in. We made some money the first event, and I didn't want to get paid. Daydream Farmers made back everything that I had invested into the bank accounts, and then all the extra that hadn't been spent initially was given right to all the people who came on and volunteered, because nobody knew how it was going to go. It's the first one, so whenever it landed so hard and we had a little income, it was like, all right, everybody's going to get paid. There's a few people who volunteered that, like, you guys are definitely getting paid, and tried to make sure that everybody ate well, who really pitched in and threw their back into it. And I couldn't be more pleased with the team that's coming behind this, and the amount of new people who are coming in and offering their services to like create their dream while making our dream possible. And the network is getting incredibly deep. So, we're aiming to, with the podcast too, and funneling you new people to kind of chit chat and stage up,
keep the network growing. Which, I mean, between you shooting to bring in some regional and kind of across the states talent, and how many people live in St. Pete or Tampa who are just ridiculously talented at something? The numbers game's kind of ridiculous, but it's what drew them to the area. Is that the area is so artsy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got Chris Dyer was attracted down to the area. He left the up northern, the cold up north, to come down and see us and stick around. We got Kev's Art in the area, who just actually tattooed rather, LS Dream. So like that's kind of cool. And then we have a bunch of other artists in the area who are trying to make their scene, and that's kind of what we're trying to do, is give every artist the best platform we can. I love littering the event with as many artists as possible. So it's like, come be seen, come, show off what you got going on, and trying our best to promote them.
Your events have been very like arts forward. You have a focus on the vendors coming from that aspect.
That's actually how it started.
Multiple VJs running different visuals, live painters, aerialists, flow artists.
Yeah, flow artists.
Not to mention the talent, the music playing.
The incredible talent.
Yeah.
We with the next event, I guess I can't talk about it too much until things are a little more secured and the surprises come out naturally. So sorry. But January 20th, come check it out. Look us up on social media, and you'll see what's going on.
Daydreamfarmers.org.
Yeah, we actually do have the website, and going back to trying to promote artists and such. Thank God again for Drew, who's over there helping out with the website pretty consistently. And the goal of the website is to be kind of a resume for artists. So whenever I'm going around, not only looking for artists for our events, but also kind of being an agent for all of the artists. I can be going to festivals, and like today, while I was sitting over there before the podcast, somebody was messaging me saying, "Hey, can you help me find somebody to fill a live musician spot?" We had somebody call out sick. Multiple texts later, I got one of my buddies to come do it, and it's like I can play agent for all these people if I'm have an awareness of them, or better yet, I can even tell the festival or the people throwing the show, like, hey, if you go on the website and you click at, you can search people by name and see their contact, or you can click on like the media side of it, like the different art mediums, and the website's still in development form, but whenever you go and you can search and specify which art form you're looking for. So if you're just casually looking for fabric art, and that can break down into, the different sewing, the different creative hats that are going on, tie-dye, and you can kind of specialize what you're looking for and find artists who are doing that. So it makes it easier for businesses to come find people to do murals on the side of their wall. It makes it easier for a festival to be like, we just want to, who are the live painters in the area? Break it down. There's all your mural artists, and on a, with all their resumes on each one of them, and they can also, sell their art on the website, to have another platform to be viewed at. And Daydream Farmers won't take any commission off of that. I want to keep that free, so that I'm aiming to stop the starving artist epidemic, as I'm calling it, because I created the website just for me originally, to sell my art and to sell my tie-dye, and then epiphany after epiphany later, I realized, why wouldn't I open it up to the community to also sell their art? I have the LLC. A lot of artists can't and don't. I have the website. Why don't I just help funnel that into the artist community, and try to help out the people who aren't there, who can't quite get there just yet due to life circumstances, but try to give them a platform the best they can. Who knows? Maybe one of them gets seen by somebody really special to their life, and magic happens. You never know. So keep daydreaming around.
So Daydream Farmers, that's a Twiddle reference.
Yeah, shout out to Twiddle. We love Twiddle. They've gotten me through a lot of depressing times. They were actually, before I moved into the jam scene, they were the first show I saw in 2018 on like September 21st or something. I actually I finally just got the poster for that show after a few years of searching, and it's the foil version.
Nice.
So they pulled me out of the metal scene, where I was kind of just mosh pitting and being angry and didn't know how an outlet to anything else, because I was kind of scared of all of other emotions rather, and they kind of pulled me out of that and left me in like more of a soft spot, and kind of opened me up a lot more than I was wanting and willing, and the jam scene and the hippie community and the whole festivals and the burners and like everybody showing so much love. It's like, it really pulls people out of that and then gives them an opportunity of change.
And so jam inspired you, but then when did you kind of take a right turn, so to speak, into more electronic and bass? Sun Squabby. Electronic sound did it for you?
Because I went from the whole jam scene, and like, I'm a Grateful Dead head through and through. And they kind of pulled me out of that and kind of introduced me to a different sound, because it went from jam to, E-jams with, Lotus, maybe, definitely a STS-9,
Sun Squabby,
probably Papadosio, a handful of them. And then you move into a little bit more of the bassier side with like your floozies. Fucking love the floozies. Cloud Court, I'm just going to say, because I love Cloud Court. Emancipator, hands down one of my favorites. First on Spotify, somehow beat the Grateful Dead this time around. Somehow. But, you're moving into kind of like giving it some bass, but giving it that electronic jam too. And then it was mostly you, quite frankly.
Yeah.
That's been pulling me into the bass scene. So shout out to Daniel for really pulling me mostly into it, because like, I don't listen to it in my car, but every time I hang out with you, you're like, hey, listen to this. Look what I got. And now Megan's helping a lot with that too.
Yeah, you put my ears on a bit of jam as well.
Yeah.
With the obstacles with like throwing your own shows, I mean, we've had a few hiccups. All in all, everything's been a very like positive experience. But how has that been, managing obstacles, running through hurdles, jumping through loops, setting out fires?
I run around. I did a lot less of it this time, but I run around putting out little fires during every show, because there's always something going on, and something's happening. Maybe the artists just need more water bottles. Got to run, go do that, or somebody's trying to sneak in the back door, and you got to make sure everything's locked up. There's a lot of little things that people don't necessarily think about that you have to do, but going through it, one of my favorite moment was. I was working really hard, and I had some help and some advice through different phone calls, and was really trying to piece it all together. And it's just, you don't need to cloud chase it. That's not why I'm speaking about a lot of these things, because truthfully, none of it's going to matter. We're all going to be dust to dust. The cloud's not really worth it necessarily. It's kind of like the love you leave into it, which is where I'm trying to come from with all these events and promoting artists. It's the love of the people. but you have to give yourself that love. And one of the moments of that was realizing, like, oh shit, I can do this. Like, there's nothing that makes anybody else more special than you that says you can't do whatever you're dreaming of. And it was, the moment the lineup came out for the first one, and I had the flyer, and everything was locked and loaded and everything was like, my down payments were made and everything was done, and the flyer goes out October 8th. And it's like, that moment it came out was such a joy, not knowing what having a child feels like. It had that essence, at least, to it, to like, oh, this is a long hundreds of hours of doing stuff to finally birth something that's, worth seeing, worth and investing in. And then other people seeing that, and then Megan came on shortly after that. Drew was one of my favorite people to call on the phone during the whole thing. And it was kind of like, proving yourself to other people so that they will help you, as well as proving it to yourself more first and foremost.
Yeah, for
Because
sure.
nobody's going to be there for you unless you believe in yourself. And if you don't believe in yourself to begin with, what are you going to get done? Because you're looking for clout, and
You're
chasing
biggest
other
support.
people's approval.
Yeah. Forrest, what's up with the crystal ball?
I like to carry it around, keep it in my pocket, because it just, outside of it making me feel good, it gives my hand something to do instead of having Play-Doh or a vape. Keeping some little something to do. I kind of keep my little crystal ball, and then if I'm really needing to pay attention and I'm really concentrating, sometimes looking at somebody and like looking them in the eyes, it'll really break my concentration to what I'm trying to say, because I'm watching their reaction more than I'm paying attention. So it's like, kind of just gives me something to gaze at, just see how the sparkles, see the cracks, see all the nonsense inside of it, and it keeps my mind kind of flowing on the natural form of the conversation, rather than looking all around and seeing distraction. So yeah, and the camera, it keeps the mind on a much easier pace.
Okay.
So, yeah, I love it.
No, I've got my little plastic.
I'm holding both. You can see my.
My weed one just died, which is tragic, but we'll be wrapping it up soon.
Is it because of the weed dying?
Well, that's definitely like the social boundary.
Can we wrap it up a little too?
Yeah, we're wrapping it up. Long, probably pretty sizable. So you said a couple books maybe have led you on kind of this path of collective, trying to start a collective of creatives. You can talk about the book.
Yeah, honestly, my favorite ones have been the ones that key into like the self-growth of the individual, and like how you should, and like kind of a guidance towards it. I would say that my top 3 favorites, kind of going down, one of them's not a book, it's kind of a person, but my top 3 favorites have been the Tao Te Ching. In Eastern doctrine, it's more of like a pamphlet, and it leaves it as proverbs, and it just kind of says, explains how you should live, and it's more of an awareness and kind of a guidance towards just being a better person in some senses. And it's honestly my favorite leadership book that I've probably read.
It's a favorite book of mine for sure, but I see it in a different light, in terms of I don't know, using it to submit. I see it as one of the biggest books of surrendering, and flowing into like the natural state of water.
No, very much agreed.
We've talked a lot about this off podcast before, but
we've had a lot of great conversations off podcast.
And Ram Dass you mentioned too, but his books are a big reason that these ideas have made it cross-culturally from India into the modern countercultural bass rave scene.
Mm-hmm.
They've got the Big Be Here Now mural right off 34th Street, but that's like a huge bestseller book of his.
Yeah. Oki had all of their stages called Be Here and Now. Yeah. Those were the major ones, and it's seeing his influence on on the community is very awe-inspiring, because even he said, I don't know anything. I'm just here hanging out and kind of telling stories. And, he really wasn't, in his words, exactly trying to do anything. It just by him being fully himself and investing fully into submitting into the flow, if you will. It was kind of and that's in layman's terms, it kind of just self organically grew. And hearing how he spoke with people and the stories that he was telling about his mindset, going into the awareness of it and kind of just being here now instead of being up in the head while it's racing around or being in the wanted thing. It's
very Buddhist, it's an important value, is to just ground yourself into the present moment. And sometimes it's hard, the present moment's scary, or you kind of don't enjoy every aspect or shading.
No,
but
mine
it's
happens on the
important
toilet.
Your what?
I was saying mine happens best on the toilet and washing dishes.
Oh, yeah.
It's like you just put down your phone, it's just like,
But
I'm gonna
whatever.
sit here for a minute.
There's a lot of moments in life that it's important to kind of grasp fully rather than just go on autopilot through.
Yeah. Sometimes it's hard at shows and festivals to be in those present moments because of it's like an overstimulation of what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
It's my favorites have always been with a minimal crowd, not or even better yet, by myself, because I traveled out to Thailand at one point this year and spent the entirety of February just doing self growth and like self observance and trying to be aware. And it was like those moments of just sitting by myself on the cliff, hearing the wind kind of just go through the valley or go through whatever it was, maybe the birds chirping. It's like, oh,
Good cup of Zen.
oh, this is really what life is all about. It's not the job you do. It's not the podcast we're doing. It's not whatever. It is those things, but it's also, that's not what it is.
It's the stillness and the being nothing.
Right now.
Yeah.
So it's very.
I find when I get upset a lot or any kind of just irrationally angry or anxious or anything, that it's like when I really take a moment to sit, it's just like realizing that none of those feelings are permanent, and realizing that it's just kind of like it doesn't define me as a person as angry or anxious. It's just something that I'm feeling in that moment.
Would you say that it's more of a happening to you rather than they are even you? It's just like, this is kind of something that's happening to me, and it'll
something that
brings
up
away.
That's actually where the word happiness comes from. It's the same root as happening. It's just
really?
Something that happens. Yeah.
Where'd you learn this?
This is what I learned.
This is what I know.
I'm the word guy. All right.
I think my last book, now that we spoke on Ram Dass, to finish that one, is not Awakening the Tiger. That's a really good one. It's called PTSD, for complex or childhood PTSD. And the person who actually made this vest, love you, Rachel, she showed me this book and told me, hey, this is a heavy book, tread lightly. And I read through it once, and then I tried to read through it again, and I couldn't get through it yet again, because it just left me in tears, because it's such a good book to point out, like, some of the way you act might be because of this trauma, that was because parents did this, society did this, you felt this way when you stubbed your toe at this age, and maybe it brought so much awareness to me. That's why I love telling people to go read that one, because it brought so much awareness to like focusing on how to self-heal, which really brought a whole lot of compassion and love for other people, because you start to realize, oh wait, that tic that I had was probably due to this, and maybe usually it's been running true more than not. Usually it brings you to the grace of, wow, if I had those issues with me, and I see it in other people because they have these anger issues that I had, or this addiction, you name whatever might be troubling that person, and they are reacting to you out of anger or out of whatever, sadness, you name it. Maybe it's because of XYZ, and then you kind of just soften yourself and have so much more grace for the person. And it's just kind of, you know,
No,
it brings
for
a
sure.
lot more love to the world rather than being pretentious because like, oh, they're angry at me. It's
Yeah,
like,
we're
no.
all some like broken kid who's just trying to figure out how to be an adult.
Yeah, we're all kids just trying to walk each other home.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Forrest. I think that's good.